Please welcome to the stage Program Chair Dr. Peter Mazzone and Program Co-Chair Dr. Diane Lougheed.
Good morning. It is our pleasure to welcome you all to CHESS 2017. Team-focused, patient-centered is the theme around which CHESS 2017 was planned. Clinical practice within all our specialties has become increasingly team-based. Team-focused means that we will learn as we practice together as a team. It is through our clinical teams that we strive to provide care that is patient-centered, care that is respectful of and responsive to our patients' preferences, needs, and values. CHESS 2017 will deliver clinically relevant education in innovative and effective formats and highlight advances in research to strengthen our interdisciplinary teams, allowing us to return home and immediately apply what we learn, improving patient care together.
Not only do you have the opportunity to attend one of the premier clinical education events of the year, but you're all in a beautiful city. Welcome to Toronto and welcome to Canada. Thank you. You can visit the eastern beaches and watch the sunrise before the morning sessions, go up the CN Tower, one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, and take the Edge Walk, or take time to visit the galleries at the Royal Ontario Museum. The possibilities are endless. Make plans with colleagues and friends to take advantage of all that Toronto has to offer.
It's a great city. We'd like to thank Dr. Silvestri and CHESS leadership for their confidence in Diane and me to lead the planning of this meeting. There are so many people who have contributed to its success. Our Vice Chair, David Shulman, and the entire Program Committee. Bill Kelly, Alex Niven in the Education Committee. Gabriel Bosslet in the Training and Transitions Committee. Margaret Pisani in the Scientific Presentations and Awards Committee. David Bell in the Live Learning Subcommittee. Victor Test in the Council of Networks. Teresa Rodriguez, Rich Hsu, and the amazing CHESS staff. Volunteers who submitted sessions, our moderators, presenters, and faculty, our colleagues at home, and last but not least, our families for their support. So now, as we begin the opening session of CHESS 2017, it is my honor to introduce to you the 2017 new fellow initiates of the American College of Chess Physicians, led by our president and my dear friend, Dr. Gerard Silvestri.
There's nothing like seeing adults rocking the graduation gown. Good morning and welcome to CHESS 2017. I'd like to start off by thanking Drs. Peter Mazzone and Diane Lougheed. As they mentioned, we have an excellent program prepared for you, and it's really thanks to them that CHESS is not only your connection to the relevant clinical information and updates, but also your connection to a community of innovative physicians, problem solvers who will inspire you. This morning, we will welcome our 2017 fellow initiates into this community. Take a look. They are the future of this organization. When you see them walking around the meeting over the next few days, stop and congratulate them, welcome them, engage them, show them what CHESS is all about. CHESS 2017 is guaranteed to be a fantastic meeting, but it's not only about education. There are so many people that I only see once a year at CHESS. And although my schedule has been a little bit busier these days than it used to be, I will absolutely be taking advantage of every opportunity to spend time with old friends, Maybe tonight at the all-attendee reception, maybe Tuesday at the network and training mixer while we watch the chess challenge. I hope to see you there. I now declare the 2017 convocation ceremony to be in session. Officers of the American College of Chest Physicians, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you all of the 2017 Fellows of the American College of Chest Physicians. The FCCP designation recognizes you as a leader in chest, your profession, your institution, and most importantly, demonstrates your commitment to your patients. The new fellows this year represent 30 of the 50 states in the United States and 10 countries from around the world. We truly have a global impact, championing lung health and improving patient care worldwide. Each initiate has demonstrated professional contributions to chest and the field of chest medicine, and has met the education and professional requirements for fellowship as approved by the Board of Regents. Each has been recommended by 2 active fellows and shown true commitment to the chest organization and chest medicine. Each initiate has been evaluated critically by our membership committee, who has reached the unanimous decision that they be awarded FCCP designation. Please join me again in applauding our initiates. To our new initiates, today you join a community of some of the most passionate and committed individuals. I know others like you and me who have devoted their professional career to improving lung health. I'd like to ask that Dr. John Studdard and Dr. Richard Irwin join me on stage. As is tradition, we will now administer our pledges to you new fellows, beginning with the Pledge of Fellowship. New fellows, please stand and join me in this pledge. Guess you're already standing. In accepting the fellowship of the American College of Chest Physicians, I dedicate myself to the mission and vision of the college. I accept the responsibility to be a lifelong learner in the disciplines related to chest medicine and others so that I can maintain professional and ethical standards of excellence and provide optimum care for my patients. I will work in harmony with the college as a teacher and advocate, and I will assist and support the college in global efforts to advance patient care, support research, promote to optimize health, and foster health equity. I join my colleagues in the American College of Chest Physicians with pride and enthusiasm. By the way, you guys are supposed to join me. I want to hear a little bit more. Now Dr. Studdard, our president-elect, will administer the No Tobacco Pledge, and you will join him if you can.
Thank y'all. Please join me. Fellows, please join with me in reading the No Tobacco Pledge, unique to this organization. As a fellow of the American College of Chest Physicians and a leader in the most important struggle faced by our healthcare professionals, the prevention and control of our major health problems of lung cancer and cardiovascular and chronic pulmonary disease, I make a special personal effort to control tobacco use and to eliminate this hazard from my office, my clinic, and my hospital. I shall ask all of my patients about their use of tobacco, and I shall assist the tobacco user in eliminating this deadly habit. I shall devote time to educating the public about the hazards of tobacco. I make this pledge to my patients and to society.
Thank you, John. As the global leader in pulmonary, critical care, and sleep medicine in the world, CHEST makes an important and powerful statement to our patients, our members, the public, and the world. We embrace and advance patient-focused care, and today we do all that by reciting the Patient-Focused Care Pledge, developed by past President Richard Irwin, who's led us every year since then in providing this. I invite everyone in the audience to stand and join Dr. Irwin and the initiates in leading this pledge.
Please join me. I will strive to provide patient-focused care wherever and whenever I have the privilege of caring for patients. I will also work to ensure that all healthcare systems in which I provide care are patient-focused. Patient-focused care is compassionate, sensitive to the everyday and special needs of patients and their families, and based upon the best available evidence. It is interdisciplinary, safe, and monitored. To ensure the provision of patient-focused care in my professional environments, I shall willingly embrace the concepts of lifelong learning and continuous quality improvement. Please be seated.
Thank you. Fellows, by taking the Pledge of Fellowship, you have committed to practicing the highest quality of medicine. Your obligation as a fellow of the American College of Chest Physicians is a commitment to a lifetime of learning, teaching, and delivering optimal health care. You are now entitled to display the much-honored Certificate of Fellowship, which serves as a reminder of this obligation. The initials FCCP after your name indicate this same responsibility. Use them with pride. Today, you have joined an ever-growing and vibrant organization of 19,000 colleagues from over 100 countries in the world in the pursuit of excellence in clinical care, teaching, and research. On behalf of the American College of Chest Physicians, I applaud you and invite you to participate fully in all that Chest has to offer. It's always good to get through the teleprompter part of this. So thank you all, and good morning, and thanks for being here with me. As I was thinking about putting this together, last year I had a pretty good run, and a lot of people thought, Gerard, you did pretty well. I don't see how you're going to top that this year. So I went to my wife for encouragement, and you know what she said? Gerard, just don't embarrass the family. But it's kind of easy. People have asked me, how was your president year? And I said, look, being a president this year, you couldn't have gotten a better year to be president, right? Almost nothing you could do as a president of any society is going to cause enough controversy to get anybody riled up, right? Like, you could have been the president of the garden club, accidentally poisoned the prize-winning tulips just before the spring fair, and everyone would go, that's okay. It's not bad. You didn't do anything that really screwed us up. But thankfully, almost nothing I could do could really affect the well-being of Chest. As I just mentioned, we have 19,000 members and growing in over 100 countries around the world. And we're really a presence everywhere, not just in our membership. We're actually a presence in social media. And in fact, we have 126,000 Facebook followers. We have 2,000 Instagram followers. We have launched some live learning and Snapchat. But I know what you're really interested in. You guys are all interested in what's going on in Twitter, right? Like, we have 18,000 Twitter followers, right? And so I was thinking, like, hey, listen, I'm a president. I probably should get involved with this whole Twitter thing, right? So before I did it, I thought, well, let me just call another president and, ask him, hey, how does this whole Twitter thing work? And, I didn't call that guy. I called this guy. I called Dr. Mark Moss. He's the president of our sister society, ATS. I said, Mark, are you doing the Twitter thing? And he said, I haven't really done that yet. And I said, well, what do you think? And he said, I think you should try it first, and we'll see how it goes. And right before he hung up, we did our usual thing, which was he said, I'm glad we're still using the same hairstylist, and by the way, I think both of us have better hair than the other guy. So with that, I thought about it, and I put together my first presidential tweet, and my last, by the way. And I looked at a bunch of presidential tweets, I worked on it for a while, and this is what I came up with. Smoking linked to lung cancer and COPD. Fake news, published in fake journal, Chest, sad. I want to say with complete certainty, this is the most liked presidential tweet ever. There's some downsides to it, though. It was retweeted by 2 tobacco companies. My daughter unfriended me and stopped following me. But seriously, our journal actually doesn't put out fake news, and I do want to talk about some of the accomplishments of Chest. Chest and Chest Physician are the #1 and #2 most widely read pulmonary journals in the world. And they have been for the past 4 years. These are journals we take great pride in, and we really want to get our information out, our clinical research out to our constituents. We've done a lot of other things this year. We've produced 7 and released 7 new guidelines. We have 120 active guideline panelists, and they've been cited just this year alone 102 times. Usually in the first year of a guideline release, they don't get cited that much, but those citations will continue. People read and download our guidelines all the time. We'll continue to work on those. Our foundation's done some unbelievable things, including just this in the past year, $500,000 in clinical research grants and awards. 95 cents out of every dollar goes into these awards that is donated. And since '96, we've given out 1,000 grants totaling more than $10 million. Our foundation is doing some unbelievable work. Our strategic plan is going to double that 500,000 to $1 million in the next 5 years. And it's through donations from our constituency and work with our industry partners that we're able to do this, and we'll continue to do this. Our foundation does something else that I think that you guys might be interested in, may not fully be aware of, and that's producing patient education products. We've produced 25 this year alone, and I would urge you to go download a few and give them out to your patients in the office. Everything from infographics, illustrations, videos on what bronchoscopy is like, et cetera. They're really, really great resources, and our focus within the foundation is to be very patient-facing and focused, and so I'd urge you to take a look at that. But today I really want to talk about education. CHEST sees itself as a global leader in education for clinicians, and we want it to be the home of clinician educators. And it made me reflect on the fact that it's been said that you probably only get 3 great educators in your life other than maybe your parents. And I certainly remember my first, and it was my biology teacher in high school, and she saw past the class clown who secretly got good grades. And she made me turn in my notebook every week on Friday, and every Monday it would come back with a quote or a poem or a great writer. And it seemed like she was saying, and she did it for everybody, but it seemed to me that she was only talking to me, and every quote had a meaning. And the last thing she wrote in my book when I was a senior was, you know, Gerard, you have this opportunity to leave for college. You have an opportunity to go away and recreate yourself. No one knows who you are. You are a scholar. And she set me on a path to where I am today. And there's no question that all of us have those great teachers in our lives. And many of those teachers are surrounding you today. We educated more than 16,000 people this past year through a myriad of different opportunities. We educated 5,000 international learners, of which 3,000 we educated outside the United States. We educated 700 advanced practice providers, and it's our goal to increase that number and keep within that team-based learning that we want so much to do. We are developing and continue to develop the first pulmonary and critical care medicine fellowships. Imagine that. We've been doing pulmonary and critical care in this country for years in China. The first 4 graduates were last year at this meeting, 13 graduates this year. You think, well, that's just not a big number, but the Chinese Ministry of Health met last year, endorsed us as one of the only 4 fellowships to ever be developed in the country, and they expanded immediately to 79 more programs. And we're working with our Chinese colleagues to produce pulmonary and critical care fellowships in China. We developed and instituted our brand, which is the board review in the United States, and instituted those board reviews in China. And so it's just spreading that education worldwide. And I want to shout out to Renly Chow, Darcy Merciniak, Jack Buckley, Stephanie Levine, Mark Rosen, and our staff liaison, Rob Rabito. These people have gone back and forth to China to help get those program directors teaching in those programs. It's just an incredible undertaking, which I'm telling you, if I'm the people who were intimately involved with that, it's something I'll tell my grandchildren that I helped participate in. That's the graduation in China. It's an incredibly proud moment for our Chinese colleagues. Last year, we instituted 2 new awards, the Master Clinician Award won by Jack Buckley and an Early Career Clinician Educator Award by Gabe Boslet. And while we were creating those awards, it occurred to me that, you know, recognizing one-offs and two-offs and master clinicians is probably not really missing the great faculty we have here. And through this year, we've worked really hard together under the auspices of our education committee, Bill Kelly, Nikki Augustin, and myself, and really tried to say, hey, look, like, we need to recognize our clinician educator faculty on a national level, particularly home at their academic institutions where clinician educators maybe aren't as valued as basic scientists and clinician scientists, where grant funding and publication rates are the currency for success. So I'm really proud to introduce to you today the American College of Chest Physicians Distinguished Chest Educator designation. This is a new designation that recognizes excellence in teaching for chest. It requires a substantial contribution. It's awarded based on service. This is not a nomination or a voting process. We have the ability with our informatics system to track where people are teaching and where people are working on things within the organization. It's individualized, and it allows people to get to this designation through multiple avenues and pathways. It acknowledges the one's contribution may vary from year to year, where you can teach more or less in a year, and it has to be maintained. This is not going to be something that we just give you for a lifetime. We expect and hope that you'll continue that service within the organization. And it incentivizes continuing new teaching engagement. Just briefly, I wanted to show you some of the ways that we've worked to do this. And you're given points allocated by programs. Some would be committee participation in terms of your committee participation related to education. Service to education are people who work tirelessly doing the simulation labs around this meeting. And participation as a learner. What we want to do is develop educators. And so if you're participating as a learner in CHEST annual meeting, leadership development programs, etc. These are important ways that you can garner points. I'm not going to go over the point system, but I did want to tell you we looked at over 3,800 total faculty the last 3 years, and we found that a little less than 5% qualified for this designation. Within that 5%, I broke it down by the number of points. You needed 300 points to be considered for this designation. And we had about 105 faculty that really do a lot of teaching, 300 to 600. We had 34 faculty that did 650 to 1,300 teaching points. That's incredible. We had 11 that actually did more than that. We had 1 faculty member with 1,950 teaching activity points. That's incredible. And I do want to call that person out. Her name is Stephanie Levine. And you can't make this sort of thing up. Stephanie has been with the college for a very long time, and completely separate from that, and I'm talking to the fellows now, the service that people provide does get recognized. And Stephanie, after today, when she's fully vested in the organization, is going to be the 82nd president of the American College of Chest Physicians. In the audience today, I've invited and asked the distinguished chest educators to be here. I would like them to please rise and be recognized, and I want the rest of our colleagues to join me in congratulating the inaugural class of distinguished chest educators. I was happy to see my name on that list, by the way. Especially this year, because I didn't do that much. What a great and wonderful group. Thank you. There are 2 people that have distinguished themselves in terms of what they've done for education for chest. And I have the fortunate privilege of being able to provide 2 presidential citations, and I wanted those citations to really include education this year. So I'd like to call Sanjeev Mehta up to the stage. Sanjeev Mehta is an incredible human being. He is the past chair of our Council of Global Governors. He's from India. He's the founder of an organization called LIFE, where they do lung health camps in villages around Mumbai. He developed this incredible partnership between chest, industry, and the Indian Thoracic Societies to deliver education to pulmonologists. It started as this small idea, and suddenly he was having us plan chest-branded meetings all over India, all over Europe for our Indian colleagues. Last year alone, we had 5,000 international learners. Of those, 2,300 were Indian learners that were educated outside of this meeting and outside of the United States. 92% of our international programs were done outside the States. They were all done with the humble efforts of Sanjeev Mehta. It's almost daunting to say this. He's helped to educate more Indian pulmonologists than anyone in the world. I'm absolutely certain of that fact, and I would like us to thank him and provide him with
Gerard, you.
Okay, it's here somewhere. Ah, here it is. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. This last citation is going to be a tough one to get through, I'm not going to lie. I'd like to call Dr. Lisa Moores, Colonel Lisa Moores, up. You can see what's on this board. Lisa, come close, man. Lisa's the Associate Dean for Student Affairs. She's the Division Chief at the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences. She's won multiple teaching awards, not just from CHEST, the Ed Rosenau Award for Master Teachers. She's won the William Clements Award for Outstanding Uniform Health Services Educator, Chair of the Education Committee at CHEST, Chair of the Anti-Thrombotic Guidelines, Chair of Pulmonary Board Review Course, Founder and Chair of our very famous CHEST Challenge, Chair in CHEST Leadership Development Postgraduate Course, Chair of Faculty Development Postgraduate Course. I could have put 3 slides up and kept listing the awards and honors and publications. But you know what? Honestly, it all pales into comparison to something that Lisa's gone through in this past year that showed me what an unbelievable teacher she is. She was okay with me sharing this with you, but last spring, Lisa was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had to go through chemotherapy and surgery and radiation. Her students, they didn't have to see her, but she was there for them every day at the medical school. Never missed a day of work. And this summer, we do our yearly board review course, and you know, we talked about, like, do you really need to come to this in the middle of all your treatments? And Lisa didn't miss a beat and turned up, and we spent the day together. You know, it was the only time in my life she had a little less hair than me, but she reminded me that it would grow back, and mine would not. Thank you for that, Lisa. And I left, I watched her give her talk. I left thinking, what an amazing human being, what an amazing teacher, what an amazing family, and this is her family, and I wanted to show you this. You know, we talk a lot about service to the organization for our new fellow initiates, service in terms of education. There are people who just lead lives of service. She served our country. All of her children in the background there serve our country and have gone through medical school and the military academies. Her husband has served our country as a neurosurgeon. This is a person who serves us in every way, shape, or form. And so it's really a great honor to present her with the Presidential Citation for... Okay.
Jesus.
Oh, that was a hard one, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to give you 10 thank yous before I finish up. I really want to thank the members. This last year has been a remarkable year for me of personal growth and an opportunity to meet with so many CHEST members around the country and around the world. Every time and every place I've gone, I've been welcomed and loved on, and it's been just such a great privilege to serve you. The CHEST staff, this is like 100 people taking care of 19,000 people, and they do an unbelievable job. There's an executive team of the CHEST staff, Steve, Bob, Nikki, Jenny, Sue, Stratton, and Ron, who I work with on a more daily basis that have really helped me in my role and tolerated my bad sense of humor. There are the presidents and past presidents, and it's a small group of people, a fraternity that has helped guide me. And whenever I pick up the phone and I'm having a bad day or having to make a difficult decision, the past presidents have been incredible at helping me mature and get through that. There are 3 boards for our college that work tirelessly and volunteer their time to set us on the proper course, and I appreciate them. My division of pulmonary and critical care in Charleston has covered me in my absence, and I appreciate them. I have a really active lab, the Thoracic Oncology Research Group, and I want to shout out to Kate, my lab manager, Dr. Nick Passis, Nicole Tanner, who've been my junior faculty. They're both associate professors now, and we call them the research kids who work in the lab. You know, we're nothing without our current and former fellows, and I love them all, and I'm really appreciative of their support. You know, I'd like to thank my teachers, and I've had many and many good ones. And then it's a top 10 thank you, and the last would be my family. My wife Joanne, my son Nate, and my daughter Mia. Nate couldn't be here because he's taking an anatomy exam. He's a first-year medical student. God knows who's going to teach that boy, but it's certainly not me. So last year when I closed my speech, I asked everyone to go out and find the patient that inspired them. Mine was a man named Wilson. This year I want you to go out and really to find the teacher that inspires you. When you're around this meeting, find a distinguished CHEST educator, find anyone in the simulation lab, all of the lectures that you'll go to, find someone who seems to reach you just a little bit more. For me, last year it was find Wilson, this year it's find Lisa Morris. Thank her for her service, thank her for her ability to teach. And I want to thank you all for a wonderful year. Thank you for your kind attention.
We will now recognize the 2017 award recipients. Each award winner has distinguished him or herself through outstanding contributions to clinical chest medicine and improvements in global health. There is no higher honor awarded by CHEST than that of Master Fellow. This year, we have not one, but 2 recipients of the Master Fellow designation. Congratulations to our first Master Fellow, Dr. Suhail Rauf. Dr. Rauf was nominated for this honor by 8 past presidents of the organization who had this to say in their nomination. Dr. Rauf has not only risen to the top of his field in pulmonary medicine, but he has distinguished himself as an internationally recognized expert in chest radiology for the pulmonologist, a master educator, and a pillar within the core leadership of CHEST. The extraordinary service he has provided to the college and the respect that he commands as a teacher, master clinician, and inspiring leader fulfill the requirements for Master Fellow. Congratulations, Dr. Rauf. Our second Master Fellow Award of 2017 is bestowed to Dr. Sidney Brayman. Dr. Brayman was nominated for this honor by Dr. Richard Irwin, who stated, Dr. Brayman has distinguished himself by attaining international preeminence due to his extraordinary contributions to medical research, clinical practice, and medical education, and years of enduring and outstanding service to the CHEST organization. Through his work, he has advanced chest medicine and the stature and successes of our college. Congratulations, Dr. Brayman. Dr. Sidney Brayman is the recipient of this year's College Medalist Award, given to honor a fellow of the college for his or her meritorious service in furthering work in chest medicine. Dr. Brayman is a clinician, an author, a teacher, a clinical investigator and researcher, and his contributions have greatly impacted the field of chest medicine. Said Dr. J. Peters in his nomination of Dr. Brayman, "I often read clinical articles that Dr. Brayman has published from the 1980s to current times and realize that Sidney has not only contributed his knowledge and understanding to his patients, but has impacted many members of the leadership of the college and the medical community at large. Congratulations, Dr. Brayman."
Hang on. To use a baseball analogy, this is like winning the Cy Young and the MVP in the same year. This has never been done in chess before, probably will never get done again. This is the Hall of Fame, and welcome to it, Sid Brayman.
Dr. Nancy Collop is awarded the 2017 Distinguished Service Award. This award is presented to a fellow of the college who has made exceptional contributions to chest in terms of time, leadership, and service. It is not bestowed annually, but rather as appropriate to honor one who has devoted much to our organization, said Dr. David Schulman in his nomination of Dr. Collop. In addition to being a tireless advocate and educator in the domain of sleep medicine, Dr. Collop has served chest as a Sikh author on 13 editions, a member of the nominating committee, the Sleep Institute, a regent at large, chair of the Council of Networks, an associate editor for the Chest Journal, and as a trustee on the Chest Foundation Board. Congratulations, Dr. Collop. We now welcome to the stage Dr. Richard Irwin, Master Fellow, to present the Alfred Sofer Award for Editorial Excellence to this year's recipients, Dr. Christopher Carroll and Dr. Deep Ramachandran. Dr. Carroll and Dr. Ramachandran were selected as this year's recipients for their work in innovative ways of disseminating content of the journal Chest in various forms of social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, and blogs. Their efforts have extended the reach of the journal to new audiences. They use their expertise to distill the core importance of articles into short but meaningful summations for readers. Their efforts have placed the journal in the top tier of important social media publications. Congratulations, Dr. Carroll and Dr. Ramachandran. Dr. Stephanie Levine is the recipient of the 2017 Master Clinician Educator Award, which recognizes long-term and significant contributions to chest activities by serving in chair and faculty roles for courses, dedication to educational outcomes demonstrated through the conduct of educational research or publication of educational outcomes, and serving in a leadership role of a chest committee, network, or work group. Dr. Levine has served the college in various roles for over 20 years and currently has served as faculty for the organization more times than any other chest member. Her considerable efforts on behalf of the organization have earned her the distinct honor of being named this year's Master Clinician Educator. Congratulations, Dr. Levine. Our final award this morning is the Early Career Clinician Educator Award, presented to Dr. Septimu Murgu. This award recognizes the achievements of a clinician educator who has made significant contributions and is committed to expanding his or her growth in education, has served as chest faculty, has contributed to the annual meeting, and has demonstrated commitment to education outside of chest through activities in his work setting or volunteer efforts. In his nomination of Dr. Murgu for this award, Dr. Eric Edel touted Dr. Magoo's work in the development of active learning curriculum, course content, and spaced education tools, as well as his leadership roles with the Education Committee and Bronchoscopy Domain Task Force. Congratulations, Dr. Magoo.
Oh, that was good. Congratulations again to all the award recipients. In addition to those we recognized here this morning, there are a number of honor and memorial lecture winners selected by the Honors and Awards Committee. They will be giving incredible talks throughout the meeting, and I'd like to take just a moment to recognize and congratulate them as well. The Honors and Awards you'll see up on this slide, coming up on your right and left. And let's congratulate them. I now declare this convocation ceremony of the American College of Chest Physicians closed and would like to introduce today's keynote speaker, Ross Bernstein. I'm thrilled to welcome our speaker today, the best-selling author of nearly 50 sports books. He's an award-winning Hall of Fame peak performance business speaker who's keynoted conferences for Fortune 500 companies on 5 continents and has been featured on thousands of television and radio programs, including CNN, CBS This Morning, ESPN, and Fox News, as well as in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and USA Today. His mission today is to get us all thinking differently about how better to provide team-based and patient-focused care. Please join me in welcoming Ross Bernstein.
Give it up for Gerard. That was fantastic. Thank you. And for Peter and Diane, give it up for those guys too. What an amazing conference. Can you guys hear me right now? I'm guessing this thing. Is that better? Can you hear me now? Give it up for Gerard. Thank you. Sorry about that. And for Peter and Diane, I wanted to say thanks for the planning committee, Jenny, everyone who put all this together. This is awesome. So as you heard, I'm a sports nut. I've been a working member of the media for the past 20 years in Minnesota, where I live, with my Minnesota Vikings, Twins, Wild, Wolves, Gophers. I've had a lot of misery over the past 2 decades, if you know anything about my teams. But it's given me a very unique perspective, being in the locker room and the press box and the dugout and the sideline, and I've been able to meet some pretty interesting folks along the way. Now, my program this morning, The Champions Code, it's based specifically on 2 best-selling series of books that I've written. This top series, Raising Stanley, Raising Lombardi, this was all about what it took to hoist that trophy. I interviewed over 1,000 professional athletes and coaches for that series who all had one thing in common. They were all champions. And much like Jim Collins did in his iconic book, Good to Great, I was looking for the same sorts of trends and metrics and patterns and analytics that were common among those teams, and the results were fascinating. Now, the bottom series is called The Code. Now, you guys know in sports we've got rules. There's black and white rules, which have been designed to keep the game fair and honest, but mixed in between these black and white rules are some shades of gray. They're called unspoken, unwritten rules, or codes, and if you break them, well, there's consequences. That's what leads to fighting in hockey or getting drilled in baseball. So my program, it's about winning with integrity. There's a fine line between cheating and gamesmanship in sports and in business, so I want to challenge you to think about your line. As I've learned, champions, the people who we like, the people who we trust, the people who just get it, they've got a very unique DNA. So I want to challenge you to think about your DNA. There was a big Harvard University research study that came out years ago that talked about the #1 overall predictor of success across any line of business, and this is what it was. So I'd say you're not so much in the medical business, you're really in the relationship business. But it's not just about the number of Facebook friends you have, it's really about the quality of those relationships. So my question to you is, why would someone choose to do business with you? I mean, literally, to be influenced by you, to be a part of your team. What's unique about you? What are the differentiators that really set you apart as a medical professional from everyone else? That's really at the core of my program. My mission this morning is to take a few things that aren't your business and make them your business. And hopefully when I'm done, you'll have a few million-dollar ideas, a few takeaways you can use to run a better practice, to think differently about how you do your business. So I'm going to share with you 7 traits that drive champions and generate momentum. Big Mo, it's a living, breathing thing. And then at the end, I've got 8 takeaways, 8 ideas you can use to hopefully think differently about how you run your businesses. So let's dive in. Number 1, as I've learned from all my research, champions, they're internally driven to succeed, and that starts with passion. You can't fake passion. You either are or aren't. You're either real and authentic or fake and phony, and that was my guy. Kirby Puckett, Game 6, 1991 World Series. I was there, man. Anyone else there? I may have high-fived some of you. I'm still hungover from that night. I don't remember a lot. But it was amazing. And when I think of Kirby and I think of his DNA, it was that smile on his face which pretty much said it all. You know the old cliche, find a job you love and never work a day in your life? First one to the office, last one to leave? That was Kirby. He had this amazing attitude, and it was infectious. Everybody loved this guy. Kirby used to tell me that whenever he'd come to work at the old Metrodome in Minneapolis, whether it was a game or practice, he'd come to the players' entrance, and they had these big doors behind the stadium. And Kirby called them stage doors because he really felt like he was a performer, and that whenever he came to work, he was going to be on stage performing. So he had to get his mind right. So he'd always stop and he'd kind of pause and check himself, whatever drama was going on at home with his wife and kids, whatever issues he had to deal with. He said, you know what? I got to leave all that out here because when I walk through these doors, I got to bring it. My teammates, they're counting on me. This organization, they're counting on me. And when he walked in, that smile, it just lit up the room. It was like Hurricane Kirby. I mean, he could bend energy. They called Kirby a gym rat because they just couldn't get rid of him. He'd come in on his days off to hang out with the beer vendors, the parking guys, the ticket takers. He never thought he was better than anyone else. He just loved his job. If someone had an error and they were in a slump, Kirby was the first guy to come over and pat you on the butt. Come on, man. Hang in there. They pay us to play baseball. Kirby grew up poor on the south side of Chicago in the Robert Taylor homes. There were no scouts scouting Kirby, but his dream was to make it to the big leagues. He had to work twice as hard as all the other kids. He'd ride his bike from the projects to his factory job to practice. He got into a junior college. He said it only took him 6 years grinding it out in the minor leagues to become an overnight sensation. And when he made it, every day was a gift. Passion. What are you really passionate about? See, here's the thing I've learned. If you're not really, truly, authentically passionate about what you do, then you need to think about what you do. Because people choose to do business, to be influenced by people who really love what they do. This is why I love hanging around professional athletes. It's like the fountain of youth. These people love what they do. They do it for free. From the time they were a little kid throwing a ball, high school, college, the minor leagues, to become a professional, an all-star, a Hall of Famer, to get to the tip of the pyramid and to stay there, it's about passion. I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently this morning. That's Wayne Gretzky. Full disclosure, I had a full-blown stage 5 man crush on this guy as a kid. I'm not going to lie to you, it was a little awkward. I've gotten to know him later in life. He couldn't be nicer. In Canada, this man is a god, I kid you not, and I love him. He's amazing. And when I think of Wayne's DNA, I think about being a giver. You know, as I learned, Wayne was the NHL's all-time leader in goals, and he was the all-time leader in assists, but he had twice as many assists than goals. I asked him about that, and he said, you know, a goal made one guy happy, but an assist made 2 guys happy. Wayne was a giver. I don't know if you can teach it, but I know we love to do business, to be around, to be influenced by giving people. My daughter scored her first hat trick in soccer a couple summers ago, 3 goals. She also had an assist. And on the car ride home, I said, honey, I'm most proud of the assist. She said, why, Daddy? I said, because great passes, they come straight from the heart. I mean, you have to want to sacrifice for the unknown, right? I mean, she could have scored that 4th goal. She was wide open, right at the doorstep, but for some reason, at the last second, she turned 90 degrees. She passed across the goal line to her buddy Carly. Carly hadn't scored in like 3 seasons. It was awesome. They fist bumped, they high-fived, they hugged it out. They talked about it over ice cream afterwards for about a half an hour. It was the greatest goal ever, as I learned. But that was the day I was really proud of my kid, because I learned she was a giver. And I don't think you can teach it. I think it's in your DNA, and it was in Wayne's DNA. See, Wayne was a servant leader. He wore the C on his sweater for the Edmonton Oilers. And that meant as the captain, it was his responsibility to lead by example. That meant being the first guy on the ice every practice, the last guy off the ice every practice. I asked Wayne about his legacy, how he'd want to be remembered when it was all said and done. He thought about it and said, you know, I guess I just want to be remembered for helping my teammates, for being the hardest worker in practice. Wow. When your leader sets that kind of a message, it's amazing how it trickles down throughout the entire organization and filters back up. You know, in the media, when teams win, everyone's fat and happy. But when teams lose and there's problems and there's drama, We want to talk to the leader, and we want answers. And after every game, no matter how bad the loss, there was Wayne, front and center at the podium, answering everyone's questions, forthright, direct, fully accountable, no excuses. Wayne, what's the problem? Why is the team in a slump? What's going on? You know what Wayne would say? Guys, I'm sorry. This is on me. I need to work harder. Don't blame those guys. Wayne would never throw his teammates under the bus. He had their back. He would fall on the sword for him every day of the week, and they adored him for it. But he understood it was his job to lead by example. It was his job to get in earlier Monday morning and just to get things figured out. He'd never ask them to do something he wouldn't do first, but he had their back. He understood that being the team's biggest leader was about being the team's biggest cheerleader. I mean, if a guy was in a slump, Wayne would stay after practice, they'd shoot 1,000 pucks. If a guy was homesick, Wayne would call a players-only meeting and take him out for beers. He understood it was his responsibility to help build that man's confidence. Confidence, as Wayne learned, was the building block for momentum, and momentum was why Wayne's Oilers won 4 straight Stanley Cups. So I guess I just want to challenge you to think about what your next great assist just might look like, because I think we choose to do business to be influenced by givers, not takers. That's Pat Summitt. She's amazing. We lost her to Alzheimer's not too long ago, but what an incredible woman. Wow. I mean, she's the winningest coach in the history of college basketball, men or women. And for Pat, it was all about trust. How many of you would say trust is an important part of your practice? We have a trust crisis in this country right now. Are you trustworthy? I mean, these are weird questions, but people are going to decide if they're going to literally risk their lives with you if you appear to be trustworthy. So for Pat, it meant recruiting not necessarily the best kids, but the right kids for her system. I read a lot of biographies of coaches, and I'm fascinated how the great leaders really recruit to their style. And that meant recruiting these young ladies, not when they were juniors and seniors in high school like everybody else did, but when they were freshmen and sophomores. Now this doubled the recruiting cycle. It meant getting in her car and getting on planes and being away from her own family, but she wanted to find the right kids. Now at first it meant studying their digital profile. We have a digital profile today as well as a terrestrial. In the old days, you'd give someone a piece of paper, I think they called it a resume, I guess, and you would just decide if that person's a good fit for your culture. But now we have so many resources from YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. It's amazing how much homework you can do to see if that person's a good fit. But eventually, of course, it meant building relationships. At first with that kid's parents and grandparents and teachers and coaches and counselors and friends. And she wanted to find out which kids did drugs, which kids got good grades, which kids were winners in junior high and high school, which kids were popular, likable. Which kids were team captains, leaders? Which kids were coaches' kids? She loved coaches' kids. Which kids grew up on farms like she did and shared her same work ethic and spiritual values, things very important to her culture? Which kids had respectful boyfriends, high maintenance parents? All these things mattered to Pat. And when those parents trusted her with their most prized possession, their child, to come to Knoxville, Tennessee, they were all in. These kids loved Pat. She became their mom away from mom. They would run through the proverbial brick wall for her. She inspired greatness. When I asked Pat about her legacy, she said she didn't want to be remembered so much as a great coach, but rather as a great teacher. She really loved teaching kids. Eye contact was very important, to constantly nourish them, to make positive strokes, little micro promotions, always encouraging them. If you screwed up, you were going to get that mile-long stare. She'd hold you accountable. But these kids worked extra hard for her. They wanted to please her. And when they graduated, and they did because Pat promised their parents, I learned that many of these young ladies would get the Lady Vols tattoo on their body at the senior ceremony. Now, how many of you guys, by a show of hands, have your practices tattooed in your bodies? Any hospitals out there? I recently keynoted Anytime Fitness's annual conference. Pretty cool company. They're the largest fitness chain in the world now, nearly 4,000 franchise locations. Fortune's Franchise of the Year, amazing culture. And at their annual conference, they had their 1,000th franchisee up on stage getting all tatted up, with everyone out there hooting and hollering. And it wasn't one of those little ones back here, peekaboo, where no one can see it. It was a big one up on their bicep, a giant purple cartoon caricature of the Anytime Fitness Running Man Dude logo tattooed on their bicep. And that's where I learned about the difference between a job and a career. One's transitional and one's forever. Do you know what I learned about Anytime Fitness franchisees? I learned that they don't run gyms, and I learned that they sure as hell don't sell health club memberships. You know what they do? They help to change people's lives. What do? Run a doctor's office, or do you change people's lives? I mean, it's a mindset. I mean, you're lucky. You actually really do get to change people's lives. But it's a mindset, and we're busy, and it becomes a factory of churning people through, but it's about that process, right? Trust. What you put out there in social media. Are people trusting you? Are you doing the right thing, making the right decisions even when no one's looking? I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently. That's the 2002 Detroit Red Wings. I'm a big hockey guy, and we're in Canada, so we're going to talk a little hockey this morning. This is a pretty iconic team. It's a team that wasn't predicted to win the Stanley Cup, but when they did, it was a pretty big deal. So I interviewed a lot of these guys for my book, Raising Stanley, and I asked them, were you guys surprised when you won the Stanley Cup? And interestingly, every single player I talked to on the team said, no, we had a goal, we had a vision, we won the cup. It was like no big deal. Pfft, this was such an outlier. I had never heard this before, so I had to figure out why, so I dove deep. I started interviewing players, and I got to know their head coach, this guy on the right, Scotty Bowman. He wound up writing the introduction for my book. Now, this guy's unbelievable. Scotty Bowman is the winningest coach in the history of the National Hockey League. 14 Stanley Cup rings this guy's got. He even named his freaking kid Stanley. How cool is that? And now Stanley's got his third Stanley Cup. I said, Scotty, what's the secret sauce? How did you win all these cups? Because he won them with multiple organizations. It wasn't just one dynasty team. He had a process. He said, Ross, it's not about recruiting the best players. It's about recruiting the right players. Again, hearing a leader talking about putting the right people on their team, the power of team chemistry, when everything just clicks. I learned that team had a whole line of Swedes, all 5 guys handpicked by Scotty. Tic-tac-toe, amazing chemistry. That team had a whole line of Russians, all 5 guys. Scotty understood that when you put friends together, high school teammates, college teammates, they had fun. They had a better work experience. They would literally fight for each other. They had their backs, and they would enjoy assists unselfishly more than goals because that guy's buying beer, and in hockey, that's a pretty big deal. But he understood the power of putting the right people together. He said, look, not everyone can be the New York Yankees or Los Angeles Dodgers with an unlimited budget and just buy up all the superstars. You got to get the right people together. You got to get some A players, some veterans to coach up the B and C players. You got to get a mix of the right people together, all rowing the boat together in the same direction, and it was amazing. But it was all about this vision. You've heard that saying, vision over time equals reality. Well, Scotty had this saying, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So they had a plan. It was a very simple plan. Boys, what's it going to take to raise Stanley? That's it. Everybody had buy into that plan. Look, it's 82 games, 16 playoff victories. You're not going to win them all. It's ups, downs, winning streaks, losing streaks. Things come up, injuries. You pivot, you make adjustments. That's what great leaders do. Every shift, every period, every game, they're constantly adjusting to things that are thrown at them every day. They're always changing on the fly, but it was all about this vision. I just did some work with their organization. They're an amazing organization. Up until this last season, they had the longest postseason playoff winning streak of any team in professional sports in North America. For 26 consecutive seasons straight, the Red Wings made the playoffs. Now think about that. Whatever team you root for more than a quarter century with 100% turnover, I mean, you know what the Red Wings did? They just found ways to win. And they did so, by the way, in a city that filed bankruptcy, playing in the worst, crappiest, oldest, lowest revenue producing arena, the Joe. You know what the Red Wings did? They didn't whine about what all the glamour teams had with their fancy arenas and luxury suites and profit centers. They just found ways to win. Scotty Bowman did more with less by putting the right people together and visualizing success. He got his A players to coach up his B and C players. Now, one of those A players was a guy named Chris Chelios. What you think about Chelly's DNA? Consistency. Chris retired a few years ago at the age of 48. 48! These are dog years in professional sports. The average professional athlete plays less than 1 season, and 99.9% of us never make it to the show. So to become an all-star, a Hall of Famer, to get to the tip of the pyramid, that's incredible. To stay there for 28 seasons, it's unheard of. But what I learned is it's really just about consistency. As they say, there's no elevator to the top. It's one step at a time, and you grind your way up. And that's what Chris called himself, a grinder. And in sports, there's not a bigger compliment. A grinder means you're willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, by the end of Chris's career, they couldn't get rid of him. He'd take whatever role they asked of him. He'd fight guys, he'd block shots, he'd do the dirty work. He was playing next to kids younger than his own kids, but they couldn't get rid of him. He just kept providing value. Now, make no mistake, Chris didn't wear the C in his jersey like Gretzky did, but he was the captain in practice, making sure guys were working hard enough, making sure they weren't screwing around. He was the captain on road trips, making sure guys got in right at the right time and got enough sleep and didn't embarrass the team. He just kept providing value, but it was about that grind, right? Consistency is about that grind. It's about doing it. I mean, athletes lead a very boring life. People think they're rock stars, but they spend 99% of the time practicing Practice sucks. It's boring. They get up, they work out, they eat, they sleep, they watch film, they work out, they get up, they sleep. But this is what they do. It's amazing. It's that grind. I learned that Chris had to hire 6 additional coaches out of his own pocket just to keep his body upright. There's a saying in sports, you can't make the club in the tub. So in addition to all of his head coaches and assistant coaches, he hired a coach to help him with the science of kinesiology and physiology, strength and conditioning, yoga, Pilates reformer, dietitian, nutritionist. They called him Team Chelly. He even hired a neurologist to help him with his peripheral vision and reflexes, a sleep doctor to help them understand circadian rhythms. It's amazing. At this level, these athletes are all specimens, but if they think you can help them extend their career one more game, one more season, they're all in. But I think the most interesting coach, and perhaps the one we can use to apply to running our practices, is the coach that did nothing but help them break down film. And this is the biggest growth area we see in professional sports and college sports today. They're called departments of decision sciences. And this is the kids, the millennials, running drone helicopters, giving us different perspectives, using Oculus virtual reality, allowing us to pre-program and build muscle memory and train ahead of time so that it builds confidence. Have you ever watched film of yourself working with a customer, hiring a millennial, working with a patient? It's a trip. In sports, that's what these guys do all day, every day. They're wired up, man. They watch game film on the sidelines. They're swiping right. It's incredible. Because there's a saying in sports, the film don't lie. Try recording yourself sometime. I actually do. I hire speech coaches to record me and to tell me how bad I suck. It's painful. But feedback is a gift if you're willing to listen. And at this level, they're all willing to listen. But again, it's about consistency. It's getting up and smiling and dialing and making calls and meeting with our customers, our patients, and doing all the things, right? There's no days off. There's no off season. It's about that consistent grind, right? Look, anyone can get lucky and have a good game. Heck, you could take steroids and have a great season, but long-term success in sports, it's about consistency. And it's the same in business, too. Look, 40% of all companies fail after year 1, 80% after year 5, and 95% of all businesses never make it to their 15th birthday. How long have you been doing what you're doing? I recently keynoted Levi Strauss's annual conference. Pretty cool company. After my presentation, their president took me down to their headquarters in San Francisco in their corporate store, and they brought me to their corporate store where he said, hey, pick out some swag for your kid. So I got all these haute couture skinny jeans and all this cool stuff, and I was all excited, and I went home and I laid it on my daughter's bed, and I said, look, honey. And she came in and she said, Dad, what are levies? She'd never heard of them before. I thought that was interesting, pretty iconic brand. So Levi's brings me back a couple months later to work with all their retail store managers. It's a huge conference, all their retail managers. And I'm debating, should I tell them? I mean, I know this is going to break their heart, but I think they need to know there's a 12-year-old girl walking around the Mall of America that has absolutely no idea what their product is. So I told them. I told all of them, and it broke their hearts. But interestingly, afterwards, their president got back up on stage. He said, you know what? As painful as that was to hear, we needed to hear that. We needed to hear that because what was promised to us yesterday means nothing tomorrow. So at this point forward, I now officially declare we're a 164-year-old startup company. We got to reinvent ourselves, guys. Whoa. Turns out Levi's invented jeans. They invented riveted denim 164 years ago because the gold miners were ripping their freaking pants. But my, how times have changed. Look at all the category killers in the Mall of America today. Lucky, Diesel, Gap, Banana Republic, True Religion, on and on and on. People are buying jeans on their phone on an app at 3 in the morning in their jammies in their mother's basements. Who could have imagined such a scenario? People buying health services on their telephones. It's amazing how things have changed. And these retail managers, they got problems. Sears, Macy's, Penny's, Kohl's. They're going bye-bye. Brick and mortar is changing. Malls are dying. They got this thing now called Amazon, and it's disrupting their world. So Levi said, we got to change. We're going to be irrelevant. So they said, we're no longer selling jeans. Nope, those days are over. We're selling experiences. We're living Levi's. Where were you in your first pair of Levi's? Remember your first kiss? Your first date? They've tied experiences to their brand of living Levi's. What's old is new again. Young celebrities like Taylor Swift have discovered their brand. It's amazing. They spent $250 million in the naming rights for Levi's Stadium, home of the San Francisco 49ers in the National Football League. They had the Super Bowl there the year before last. By no coincidence, it was Super Bowl 50. You know the Roman numeral is for 50? L for Levi's. It's incredible how these guys have reinvented themselves. And isn't that the point why we're all here today? Right? It's about that consistent grind that got us here, the work ethic, right? Paying our dues, but yet it's being open to new technology, new experiences. Look at all the vendors and breakout sessions at this amazing event where we can learn new ideas, new practices. I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently. That's Harmon Killebrew, another one of my childhood heroes. I miss him. We lost him to pancreatic cancer several years ago, and now he and Kirby are up above rooting on our twins. I miss him. When I think of Harmon's DNA, one word comes to mind: respect. I told you before about Wayne Gretzky. Wayne was a servant leader. He would never throw his teammates under the bus. He had their back. Harmon? Well, Harmon was the opposite. Harmon was a guy with no filter who actually really enjoyed throwing his teammates under the bus. It wasn't a popular thing to do, but it was the right thing to do, and Harmon made sure that he did his job so good. See, baseball is a crazy game. It's 162 games long, preseason, postseason. I mean, the World Series is still going on. It's snowing in Minnesota. It just goes on and on forever, and there's so much drama in baseball. I mean, if you walk into a dugout, if you're a manager, you're managing these huge egos all day. Blacks, whites, Jews, Muslims, Latinos, Dominicans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Venezuelans, Cubans, Japanese, Taiwanese, Koreans, Australians. It's nuts in there. You got a 4-game road trip to Toronto, Boston, New York, LA. You got drama. This clique, they want to go out to dinner with these guys. This clique, they want to talk that language. This guy hates that guy. This guy's chasing that guy's girlfriend. If you're a manager in baseball, you ain't got time to deal with all that drama, because in baseball, they've got what they call a shared vision. And what that means is that when your team sucks, they fire everybody. There's no golden parachute for the dude at the top in baseball. You get a 2 to 3 year window to win, or you're out. Imagine if that was your world, or if you had to produce to win, or you're out. But that's the world they live in. So managers learned they got to lean on the clubhouse guys to do the dirty work. See, Harmon's contract wasn't measured the same as everyone else, home runs, RBI. His job was to make sure that the manager, the leader, knew what was going on behind the curtain. He was the mole. You got a mole? Well, how do you really know what's going on behind the curtain? See, in sports, this is the most critical role. No kidding. Because your people, they hear you, but don't always think they're listening to you. They listen to Harmon because he was the most senior veteran player. You got clubhouse gals, too. His job was to make sure that little problems didn't turn into big problems. He held his teammates accountable. Hey, coach said team bus leaves at 9, not 9:05. Pay attention. Act like a professional. Hey, run out every ground ball. I don't care if we're down by 10 runs, 20 games out of first place. These fans paid good money to be here. Some of these kids, this might be the only ball game they get to see all year. Make it count. Several years ago, I was at an autograph show. I was there signing my sports books, and Harmon was there, and Joe Mauer and Justin Morneau were there. 2 rock stars from my Minnesota Twins making about $35 million at the time. And there's a long line to see Justin and Joe. It's around the corner. So they had like an assembly line. They had an assistant there, handed him stuff, and they were sitting there, head down, and they were just signing. It's like a squiggly line. You couldn't even read it. Now Harmon, he's old school. He sees this, he gets upset. So he gets up and he walks over and he stops his line. Says, excuse me, I'll be right back. And then he walks over to Justin and Joe's line and he stops their line. And I'm watching this because sadly, there's nobody in my line. So all of a sudden the line stops and Justin and Joe look up. Hey, Harmon, how you doing, buddy? What's going on? Hey, you guys are going kind of fast, huh? Yeah, what's up this long line? Well, slow down. Slow down. He threw these guys under the bus. He read them the riot act. Their eyes were like saucers. They'd never been talked to like this, but Harmon let them have it. If these fans are going to honor you with the privilege of asking for your signature, you show them respect. You do it the right way. You see that ball? That's a Harmon Killebrew signed ball. What you'll notice about it is, it's perfect in every way. It's a long name, but it's beautifully, cursively written. They've been that way since the 1950s to the day he died. And Harmon, he didn't just stop there. He'd always take an extra step, very purposely take the ball, and he would center it. He wanted that signature to be right between the laces. That way, when you got home and put it up on your bookshelf in that little acrylic case, it just looked perfect. And Harmon, he didn't just give you the beautifully legibly, perfectly centered ball every time. Nope. Harmon Killebrew under-promised, and he over-delivered. He always gave you something extra underneath. Career home runs, maybe the year he's inducted in the Hall of Fame. You never knew. It was always a surprise. And while he was signing it, he'd look you in the eyes and ask you about you. Everybody's favorite subject. A memory of a lifetime. And he would consistently do it for a 1-year-old kid who's probably going to slobber on it, or some shitty-looking dude who's going to have it for sale on eBay later that night. Harmon Killebrew was the glue, the galvanizing force, the voice of reason that held his teams together. And as you think about your teams, and all the different touch points, from the med students to the PAs to all the different people helping you, the nursing staff, everyone. I want to challenge you to think about who these clubhouse guys and gals are, because long term, you won't win without them. Now, lastly, sometimes being a champion is just about doing the right thing, being compassionate. I know that's an interesting word in your world, because you deal with this every day. Big college softball playoff game a few years ago between Western Oregon and Central Washington. In the middle is Sarah Tukulski. Late in the game, the senior right fielder stepped up and boom, she hit her first ever career home run. She was so excited. Runners in second and third came around to score. The dugout emptied. All of her teammates were jumping up and down celebrating. They just took this lead in this big game against her arch rival. Sarah was so excited, she ran right past first base. And her first base coach yelled out, "Whoa, Sarah, slow down, turn around, come back, you missed the base." And as she turned to come back, she blew her knee out. And it was bad. ACL, MCL, it was a train wreck. She's laying there in a heap, sobbing, she couldn't move. Her coach came running out, "Ump, we're gonna pinch run for her." And the ump said, "I'm sorry, it's against the rules. She'll be credited for a 2-run single." Well, can her teammates help her? "I'm sorry, it's against the rules." And as she was laying there crying, the 2 team captains for Central Washington came out, Liz Wallace and Mallory Holtman, and they said, "Hey, ump, anything in the rules that says we can't help her." They knew her career was over. And the ump said, "No." So they picked her up, and they walked her over to second base, and they lowered her down, and they took her to third, and they brought her home so she could earn that home run with dignity. Even if it meant losing by 1, which they did, I think at the end of the day, we choose to do business, to be led, to be influenced by people who are compassionate, who have empathy, drive. Why are you guys here today? Why did you come all the way to Toronto? I'm fascinated by what drives people. You know, being in the media, I get to look in players' lockers, and you get to see a little window into their world. You get to see pictures of their spouses and their children, and the clippings, the bulletin board material. Players say, "Oh, we don't read what you writers write." They're all filthy liars. They read it all. Too old, too fat, too slow, but it drives them. They put it up there. You got to put it up there. What's up there for you? What's on your iPhone home screen right now? What kind of pictures are in your office? I think you got to make it personal. So I make it really personal. That's my drive. That's why I get up and I grind and I head to airports really often, because I want to do better for my family. And I'm guessing that's why you're here too, right? We all want to do better for our family. Wherever I speak around the world, those are universal truths. Everyone wants to take care of their children and do better for their family, but you got to make it personal. So I put it out there. This is what I want. I mean, look, I speak at 120 conferences per year. There are mornings I wake up, I don't know where I am. I haven't been home in 3 weeks. I was in South Africa the last 2 weeks, and I've been 3 cities this week. But you know what? I focus on the good stuff. I got to bring my wife and kid to South Africa. My kid's come to 16 countries with me this past year. We figure there's a good chance she's going to flunk the 9th grade, but I'm seeing the world through her eyes. That's my drive. And sometimes this school thing gets in the way of my kid's education, but I'm driven. That's what I want, so I put it up there. Put up there what you really want. I'm driven by new ideas. What was your last best new idea? Look, that's why we're here today. You can no longer say, "Well, we've always done things that way." This is about thinking of new ideas, processes, procedures. So I wrote this cool book about hockey fighting on the left, and my best customers, my evangelists, said, "You know, Ross, I think there's codes in other sports too." I listened, and that became a sequel. Then it became a series. Now it's a franchise. This is where I went in my world from being an order taker, Amazon, Costco, Walmart, price, commodity, large insurance companies, commodity, to being a trusted advisor, where it just wasn't about the price. It was just, you know, you're my guy. We love it. What else you got? Hey, what else could you do to help me? Wow. What other value could you be providing the families who you service, the organizations, the companies that you service? This really blew my mind. We have to think of new ideas and then build them into sequels and series and franchises. I don't know what this looks like in your world, but it's really revolutionary. I want you to think about it. And then I learned that a book couldn't just be a book anymore. I've had to change. So books have changed. So this book we turned into a movie, my book on hockey fighting, and this book is for Steve Welch. Where's Steve? Where are you? He's the CEO. Steve, that's for your bathroom library. Give it up for this guy. He's fighting for all of you. Cool, so, you know, books can't be books anymore, so that book we turned into a couple documentaries and HBO and ESPN, and now we did a feature film with an Academy Award-winning director. How cool is that? I'm only in the movie for like 2.5 minutes, so if you watch, don't blink. But books have become movies. Cool, it's a shift. And then I learned that a book could become a speech. And this book, my book with my man crush, Wayne, this is for Gerard. Where's Gerard? Where are you, Doc? Give it up for Gerard. You're awesome. That's for you, buddy. Take that back to Charleston and show him how to play hockey. Yes, I've had to change. Books have become movies, documentaries. They become speeches. I've had to monetize my content differently. Do you know why? because my book business is kind of in the toilet right now. You think you got problems in your world? I'd like to welcome you to my world, where books are dying. I was watching an HGTV special recently about the home of the future. Guess what's not in it? Bookshelves. That sucks if you write books for a living. I mean, it's crazy, all these disruptions. I mean, those are $25 books, but the e-version, I mean, I hope you guys are, none of you guys have these hideous devices, these Kindles, Nooks. These things are killing me. $25 book, but the e-version $7. I got to do the same amount of work. I got to write it, publish it, edit it, market it, promote it, but I'm only making a fraction of the profit. Is that fair? No, but that's my reality. I can whine about it and go out of business, or I can change. So I've changed. I don't write books anymore. I make Christmas gifts. My books all come out in November by design for people that like to touch and feel and hold and wrap up a book. My book's what I call currency. I just give them away. Charity golf tournaments, a new client wants to hire me, I just send them a big old pile of my sports book, and it's amazing how that relationship takes off. But these disruptions, they're real. It's not just how the hotels feel about Airbnb or the cabbies Uber. Everything changed. The playing field's been leveled. There's so many things. I mean, disruptions. In your world, it's reimbursement. It's Obamacare, ISIS, Ebola, Zika, the next Trump tweet, fake news, Part D, hospital group buyouts, mergers, hospitalists. I never even knew what that was till this morning. Time constraint, handoffs, burnout, end-of-life discussions. You're having to do more with less. Everything's disrupting your world. All you want to do is just take care of people, but there's all this stuff like insurance, and I get it. So what are you going to do? Well, here's a couple ideas I want to think about as you think about momentum, because that's what this is really about. How do you keep it, and it's like a living, breathing thing. Number one, 8 ideas. Number one, I want you to make sure that your customers, your patients, they know your story, because soft skills are such a huge part of relationship building that's going to lead to more success with your team, with your patients. So I'm going to share with you briefly my signature story. I'm going to do it because it's a big part of my brand, but I'm doing it because I want you to think about your story. That's why we're here, to be able to share stories, and I want to ask you if it has a beginning, a middle, and end. I want to ask you if there's some poignant parts to it, but I'm going to share with you because it's a big part of who I am. Now, my story, it's a big part of my brand, and I think, again, you need to use this as you think about differentiating yourself to grow your practices and have more time and freedom and money to do the things you're very passionate about. Hunting, fishing, golfing, spending time with your kids, grandkids, I don't care, but this is about your story as a means to grow your business. Now, my story begins in the booming metropolis of Fairmont, Minnesota, 6 miles from the Iowa border, where I grew up as a huge sports fan. I'll go back. That's me in the middle, my number 10 purple Vikings Fran Tarkenton jersey that literally turned brown because I slept in it every night. Notice my fly is down there too. Nice. Thanks, Mom. But my whole world changed in 1980 when I watched The Miracle on Ice. This rocked my world. This fiery coach, Herb Brooks from Minnesota, one of my heroes, led this group of kids from Minnesota to beat the Soviet Union, the greatest hockey team ever assembled. A team hadn't lost in 20 years. I said, Mom, Dad, I want to play hockey. Now, you got to understand something about southern Minnesota. This is basketball, wrestling country. This isn't like northern Minnesota by Canada, where they pull the kids out of the wombs by their skate blades. This is different, okay? But I begged them to please let me go to the Herb Brooks hockey camp. Herb had a hockey camp that year, and they said, fine, you can go. So I got all the skates at the Coast to Coast hardware store, and I was what you call an ankle bender. I was one of these guys. Any hockey moms, you know who I am. And I remember one day in practice, Herb came over to me and put his arm around me and said, way to go, Ross. He knew my name because I had written a tape on my head, and I actually won an award. Now, I know you guys all just won some awards, so congratulations, but my award was a little different. And if you know anything about hockey, they give this award to the guy who sucks the most. And that was me. And Southern Minnesota hockey, it was old school. I was going to say, as you're about to see, I became the starting left defenseman for the mighty Fairmont Cardinal / Domino's Pizza hockey team. We were really bad. What you can't see there is I had a sweet mullet going on back there. But, you know, small town hockey, it was great. You know, being in a small community and playing sports. And, you know, well, I had a choice to make as a senior in high school. I could play small college football, or I could be a Golden Gopher. And in Minnesota, this is our thing. This is like Texas football, Indiana basketball, pick your cliche, but it's so dang cold up there. This is all we got. So I wanted to be a Gopher, and my mom and dad were Gophers. My 2 big brothers, my family bled maroon and gold. I got season tickets in the late 80s. All these kids got drafted. We were a dynasty program. And then winter semester rolled around. It turned out they had a class you could take. It was called Introduction to Ice Hockey 101. It was the underwater basket weaving class players taught for their scholarship. So I took this class, and I got to skate at Mariucci Arena 2 days a week with actual real-life Gopher hockey players. It was amazing. And I wound up becoming friends with a bunch of these guys. I'd bring them over to my fraternity parties and we'd drink beer, allegedly. And after a while, they said, you know, Ross, you're not that bad of a hockey player. You should try out for the team. You should walk on. I said, come on, I'm from Fairmont. And they said, doesn't matter. We like you. We want to hang with you. You make us laugh. And that's where I learned about the most powerful and tangible of them all, likability, the ultimate soft skill. Really? Yeah, go for it. We'll pass you the puck. So I took this insane leap of faith and I walked on to the Golden Gopher hockey team, and it was the thrill of a lifetime. I was a pylon out there, but I was out there, and sure enough, my new buddies were passing me the puck, and they were building my confidence. I was scoring goals, and after a while, I thought, well, maybe I am good enough to play hockey at University of Minnesota. But I had to make a statement. I had to do something to capture the coach's attention, and one day, an opportunity presented itself when our team captain, Todd Richards, came skating down the ice. Now, this guy's a rock star, all-American defenseman. He'd go on and play in the NHL. He'd coach in the NHL. And I thought, this is it. This is my chance. I'm going to take out our star player. They're going to have to notice me, right? It's like the first day of prison. You shank the biggest dude in the yard in day one and hope that word gets out. You're going to have a very uncomfortable evening. I write about that. So I'm thinking, I'm going to take out Richards, and they're going to have to start me, right? So he sees me coming. He knows I'm going to nail him. I'd say, I got him lined up. But it's like he doesn't even brace himself. I'm like, okay, dude, this is going to hurt. Now, Richards, he's wearing this really weird jersey this particular day. I'd never seen it before. It was all white with a big red cross in the middle. I said, bullseye. I lined up the crosshairs and bam, I sent him flying. It was like the check of my life. I was like, woohoo, you had to see that. Where do I sign? It's fuzzy from here. But I remember flying through the air backwards, and when I landed back there, and literally came to from being knocked out cold, no kidding, I awoke to one of our assistant coaches, a former goon in the National Hockey League, a professional fighter, with one hand around my neck, the other in a fist, ragdolling me, screaming, "You idiot! What are you doing? Our team captain's wearing a Red Cross jersey today. That means he's injured." I'm sorry, Coach, I had the pizza jersey. I didn't get the memo. Well, Coach Wu called me into his office. "Kid, I love your passion, but this ain't gonna work out. Turn in your playbook." And that was the day my dream of hoisting the Stanley Cup died. I was devastated. But it turned out, unbeknownst to me, there was another job opening on the team. It wasn't quite as sexy as All-American defenseman, but it was close. It was the team mascot, Goldie the Gopher. Now, there were two criteria for the job. You had to be a decent skater and a moron. I apparently fit on both accounts and became a giant, smelly rodent. That's actually me inside there. I don't think they cleaned that head since the Grover Cleveland administration. But I made lemonade out of lemons. I got to become a cheerleader, which was pretty awesome. I was the only dude in that squad. And I still got to practice with the team and hang with the guys. And I got into a lot of trouble. So much trouble that as a senior in college, a publisher approached me and said, "Kid, we've been watching you. We'd like to write a book about all the trouble you've gotten into." Apparently, it's not appropriate to throw Kraft cheese singles at the Wisconsin band. Who knew? Cheeseheads. I said, "Look, I'm flattered, but other than my grandmother, who's going to want to read your book?" But it kind of spawned the idea, what if I wrote a book about the history of Gopher hockey from Goldie the Gopher's point of view? That's not bad. So I called my mom and dad, and I said, "Mom, Dad, about my graduate school money." Now, my parents worked very hard at our family furniture store so I could go to graduate school. My two big brothers had gone on to get their Ivy League MBAs, and this is what they wanted me to do. And I said, I'm not interested in this college thing anymore. I want to work in sports. That's my passion. So I want to use my money to write and publish a book about the history of Gopher hockey. I remember the words failure, disappointment, a lot of four-letter words. Conversation didn't go well, but it ended with my old man saying, "Fine, you can have your money, but you better not come crawling back to me when it's all gone." I said, "Great." So I dove in and I started writing this book. Now trust me when I tell you, I knew nothing about writing books, publishing books, editing books, reading books. If you saw my transcript, you know I'm not kidding. But I wanted to work in sports. It's the only thing I really love to do. 5 days into my book project, serendipitously, I get a phone call out of the blue from Herb Brooks, my hero, who's now coaching the New Jersey Devils in the National Hockey League. "Ross, heard about your book. I want in. Let's get together." It was amazing. We got together and he helped me. I think he saw in me a young go-getter who's going to change the world, not as a player, but as a journalist. And I think he saw that my book was going to be good for hockey. He said, "Ross, if you really believe in something, you got to be willing to get in your car and get in planes and tell people about it." He told me how he drove through a blizzard all night one time to come to Fairmont to start a youth hockey program. He said, "Ross, the wider we build the base of this pyramid, the higher we can go." And he helped me. Called all these famous hockey players. He said, "Hey, let's help my buddy Ross. He's going to help write this book. It's going to be good for hockey." And lo and behold, as a senior in college, I wrote my first book, Gopher Hockey by the Hockey Gopher. It became a cult bestseller when I was off to the races, doing book signings, going on TV, talking to companies. And I remember after about the third printing, I got a phone call from my old man. It was a tough call for him to make, but he said, hey, I'm proud of you. Everybody thought you were going to fail, but you did it. And then he told me something I never forgot. He said, I know you want to work in sports. It's a tough road to hoe. There's no jobs in sports. But he said, follow your dream. He said, follow your dream. Otherwise, you're going to spend the rest of your damn life working for somebody else who did. 50 books later, I'm still a work in progress. But what I learned is it's really not about what happens to you. It's how you choose to react to it that matters. My biggest failure became my biggest success. But my question to you is, what's your story? Today, we live in a society where stories are so important. If you watch the show Shark Tank, you know that the companies that get investments are companies that have a story. Maybe they overcame adversity. Maybe they have a product that's involved with a charitable organization. I want to challenge you to think differently. Number 2, think charitably. Why? Because we like to do business and be around givers, not takers. How many of you are involved in a charitable organization of some sort? Awesome. Philanthropy isn't just good purpose, it's good business, but you got to make it personal. The second part of my signature story is I actually became good friends with Herb Brooks, and he asked me to write his biography, and I was actually working on it with him the day he died. I was golfing with Herb the morning of August 11, 2003, and I remember he had to leave early. He had a speaking engagement with a big pharmaceutical conference in Chicago, and he was killed on the way home driving in a car accident. And so I decided to honor his legacy, and now I've written a couple books about Herb, and I donate all the proceeds to the Herb Brooks Foundation. Are you a big hockey fan? That's for your bathroom library. I love giving my books away, so enjoy that. But our mission, we're looking for the next Gretzky. We don't know who he or she is. She could be Hmong, Korean, Somali. We don't care. We give inner city kids hockey equipment and ice time, and we get cops and firefighters to drive them to games, and kids with special needs, Down syndrome, autism, kids whose parents are over in Iraq and Afghanistan. The women's Olympic team trains at our dryland training facility in Minneapolis, and we get rock stars like Zach Parisi to come to our golf tournament. We've raised millions to get kids interested in sports. I don't care if you know the difference between a blue line or a clothesline. What you got to know about me is I'm really passionate about getting people interested in sports, and what I found is that when I connect with other people and they like sports or they got kids in sports, we connect. We start a relationship. Wherever I am in the world, sports is a universal language. Certain companies, I think, they lead with their philanthropy. That's why every book I write is tied to a different charity. That's why I'm never selling products. I'm selling hope. What are you selling? Medicine? Patient care? I mean, it's about hope, right? And certain companies, I think, do it really, really good. One of my favorite companies is a hearing aid company called Starkey. Now, you might know them for their hearing aids, but it's a completely commoditized business. What they're really known for is their charity. That's my wife, Sarah. I married out of my weight class. She's amazing. Every year we get to go to their gala, and every year they raise $10 million for their charity. See, Mr. Austin, their founder, his passion is to watch people hear for the first time. So they get all these rock stars to give them all this cash, and they go to Haiti and Ghana and Liberia, and they watch people hear for the first time when they put a hearing aid in. I mean, it's incredible how people choose to do business with them, not because of their product, but because of what they're known for. Tweet that. Facebook that. No one freaking cares what you had for breakfast. Great companies lead with philanthropy, and they make it very well aware. I want to challenge you to think differently. Number 3, find your currency. We talked about this earlier. Currency isn't just money. Currency is well, for me, it's my stuff. It could be books, giving away at golf tournaments, or endowing scholarships, or finding different charitable organizations to tie them to. Every book is tied to charity. That's how I get on TV, because I'm never trying to sell a product. I'm trying to sell hope. But it's also your time, your expertise, your willingness to help others, gratis. Maybe that's a free speech in my world to a Rotary or a Chamber of Commerce or a nonprofit. In your world, who knows? But it's amazing. Maybe it's a warm referral. Maybe it's a retweet or a like on social media. Currency. There's so many different things. I don't know what it might be in your world, but I think you need something more than just a handshake. I think you have to make it personal to build a relationship. I don't know what currency is for you, but I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number 4, take risks. Why? Because you're going to have to try new things in order to grow your business. It's uncomfortable to step outside your comfort zone, but you got to try new things. No, I'm a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan, and they are playing right now against Cleveland in London. The game started at 9:30. I'm missing the game because of you. Don't feel bad, really. It's okay. But I love the Vikings, and we can't stand the Green Bay Packers. These guys have been kicking our butts for years. So a few years ago, when they decided to send their quarterback, Brett Favre, after 16 seasons with the Cheeseheads, to come play for my Vikings, it felt very dirty. So I took a big risk, and I wrote this book called I Love Brett Favre. I hate Brett Favre. I love Brett Favre. Now, where's Jenny Nemkovich? Jenny, give it up for Jenny. She's one of the planners. She's a big Chicago Bears fan. Give it up for her and her planning team. Don't throw it. Don't throw it. She's coming over here. All right. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for your hospitality. Well, I took a big risk writing this book. I mean, Brett took a big risk. I took a risk. And I thought, well, I was either going to be rich or in prison. But the announcers on Monday Night Football, when they started flipping it in front of 40 million people, it went viral. Look at this. This is what it looks like. But that's Super Target bestseller end cap. There I am next to Rachel Ray, Dan Brown, Nelson DeMille, Joel Olstein. That's two facings across from toothpaste. You can't buy that real estate. I built a brand. I thought, how was I ever going to top that? Well, it's funny you should ask, because the next year I got real cocky, took a big risk, and I wrote that. And it was a disaster. I mean, the hubris of me thinking after all these sports books I could write a book about politics. Well, Walmart actually thought it was a clever idea. They said, kid, we're going to put this at the cash register during the election. I thought, that's awesome, because I'd like to buy a second home in Tahiti. This is going to work out great. But then Sarah decided she wasn't going to run for president, and that's the day I got a phone call personally from the senior vice president of sales of Walmart himself to tell me I could cancel the entire order. I'd already printed the entire order, and that's a dumpster fire you don't want to see. What are you going to do? You take risks, you fail. It's okay. Go read the bio of every Fortune 500 CEO. You know what you're going to read? Failure, 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 success. Turns out you fail your way to the top. No kidding, right? I just worked with 3M, great company, a lot of medical devices, and I was walking through their innovation center, and I was looking at all their thousands of products, from Post-it notes to medical devices, and I was reminded of all the tens of thousands of failures it took to get them just right. It's okay to fail, but I learned you got to perform the autopsy so you don't make it twice, and for me, it was all about staying focused, stick to sports. Enough said. Number 5, be willing to adapt and change. Why? You're going to have circumstances beyond your control. That's my friend Derek Bugard. I was 2 years into writing his biography when Derek died. What are you going to do? You just got to roll with the punches. Things happen. Look at this. Here's 2 people offering to sell me digital downloads of my own books. Seriously? I used to laugh when Madonna and the Rolling Stones would say, you people are stealing our music with these MP3 file sharing sites. Well, now Google got into my world. Now they just sucked up all my content up into the cloud, and now people can just download it for free and sell it. Imagine if Google got into your world. That'd be a game changer, wouldn't it? What are you going to do? Roll the punches. Look at that. That's my brand. I built that brand. Pretty cool, huh? The only problem is it's not my book. I got ripped off. What are you going to do? Turns out this internet thing makes it real easy for people to take your intellectual property. Look at that. There's the book I gave Steve, my book, The Code. There's my name up there, translated into Russian, Czech. Pretty sweet. Yeah, that's not my book. Turns out the Russian mob, allegedly, has a publishing arm. I decided it would be beneficial to keep my thumbs and kneecaps, so I didn't say anything. I was just flattered I thought it was that important. What are you going to do? Well, at the end of the day, this is really all you can do, right? Because this is how people want to feel. And if you don't make them feel this way, I assure you somebody else will. So whenever I screw up, and I screw up all the time, I say WWGJD. What would Grandpa Joe do? That's Fairmont Furniture. Grandpa Joe started that store in 1939. I'll never forget the day I was in working with my grandpa, my great-grandpa, my dad, my brothers, and a farm family came in, and they were pretty down and out in their luck. And they returned a bunch of old used furniture to our store that they didn't even buy from our store. I said, Grandpa, why would we do that? And he said, because it's the right thing to do. We live in a small town, we take care of people. And sure enough, people would drive all the way from Iowa and South Dakota just to buy furniture from my family. It wasn't better furniture, it was the same. It wasn't cheaper, it was the same, but they wanted to do business with my grandpa because he always took care of people. So whenever I screw up, I say WWGJD, and I put down my keyboard, and I pick up the phone. I'm a caller. I'm old school. I want people to hear my sincere, authentic voice. Hey, I am so sorry. I totally screwed up. How can I make this up to you? Do you know what I've learned happens about 100% of the time when you just call someone and you don't text them or email, and you eat it and you own it, and you don't kick the can down the road and blame someone else in ops or IT or marketing or somewhere else, and you just say, I am so sorry. How can we make this right? You know what I've learned happens? You know what people say? Thanks. Turns out that's really all they wanted. Just someone to put on their big boy pants and say, I'm sorry. How can we make this right? No excuses. I don't know what WWGJ looks like to you, but for me, it just means doing the right thing. And lastly, I want you to think about your legacy. Why? Because it matters. It matters to you and your family, your coworkers, your customers, your patients. And I want to leave you with my buddy Herb Brooks. I'm honored to be able to carry on his legacy. And when I think of Al Michaels and his iconic call, do you believe in miracles? Yes! I can't help but respectfully disagree. There were no divine interventions for Herbie. It was about hard work, commitment, and passion. It's about doing the right things Three weeks before Herbie died, I asked him about his legacy, and I asked him how he wanted his tombstone to read, and he said, you know, the name on the front of the jersey, it's always more important than the one on the back. It was all about the team for Herbie. You know, Herb's favorite poet is a woman named Linda Ellis. Maybe you've heard of her. She talks about the dash. See, we've all got that number on the left over there, and then the one on the right, it comes quick. I hope not for a long time for all of us, but I know in your world, these are things you have to deal with on a daily basis, and it's hard. But they come, and all you get in between is what Linda calls the dash. So I want you to stop for a second, and I want you just to think about your dash and your families and your coworkers and your teammates and customers and patients and people who count on you. And I want to ask you if you mattered. Did you matter? Did you make a difference? Are you making a difference for your families? Will there be a guy on a stage someday talking about you and your DNA? You know, Herb had this acronym he used for every major decision he made in life. He called it QTL, quality, time, left. How much you got? Are you living a passionate, purposeful life, or are you pushing the rock up the hill? That's no way to live. What do you want to be when you grow up? It's not too late. You know, I heard this old proverb, days and weeks and months drag on, but years fly by. If you got kids, you know what I'm talking about. You know that old saying, you're only as happy as your unhappiest kid, and that's why I'm all in. That's why we're South Africa last week, and trips coming up to Australia and New Zealand, because my days are numbered. My kid's in high school now, right? I'm competing with traveling soccer and speech debate and theater and Snapchat and boys, and my days are numbered, so I'm trying to be present, right? Because it's so hard. We work hard. We work a lot of hours, but it's about spending time with the people that matter most. So work hard, play hard, be present. I work with millionaires and billionaires all over the world, but none of that matters if you're not present. For Herbie, it's about taking care of the team, taking care of what he called the behind-the-scenes people. In his world, these were bus drivers, Zamboni drivers, equipment guys, trainers. If they were up till 2 in the morning after a big weekend series, hanging equipment, they could always expect to find cold beers, warm pizza, and a personal handwritten note, like a Willy Wonka golden ticket. Thanks, guys. I couldn't do it without you. He treated them with such dignity and respect, better than his own players. There's a whole team behind you, right? A whole team of PAs and nurses and practitioners and a whole team running insurance and doing the dirty work. Take care of them. Acknowledge them. That's what great teams do, and think about your legacy. You know, this, I got a phone call this morning at 6 a.m. from Dr. Jesse Miller at United Hospital in St. Paul. He's a pulmonologist who said, you're in Toronto and you must be at the chest conference. Yeah. He's taking care of my dad this morning. I'm going to fly home today and say goodbye to my dad. Team of pulmonologists is keeping him alive right now. So thank you. You probably don't get told that a lot, but they're keeping him comfortable so I can say him, because I haven't seen him in 3 weeks. And I've been on the road, and it's really hard to get up and do this. You know, I've held it together, so I'm sorry, but you see this all the time, but it's hard. But my dad said, the show goes on. You're a professional. Suck it up, do it, right? And I know there's days you're tired and sick and injured and don't feel like performing, but we got to perform. And lastly, I want to remind you that however you do your business, have fun. My dad was fun, super fun. We like to do business and be around fun, funny people. And whatever stage of the game you're at, age is just a number. That's my buddy Lou Battori. This guy's 106 years old. He's a competitive skier in Michigan, and guess what? He wins every race he competes in. You know why? There's nobody else in his age group. How cool is that? Look, being a champion is a choice. It's a choice you get to make every morning when you walk through those stage doors to perform for your customers, just like Kirby Puckett. You get to decide what your attitude's going to be. Positive, nourishing, amazing, smiling, or negative and toxic. But remember, winning just for the sake of winning, it's fleeting, it's hollow, it's not sustainable. Win the right way. You'll be tempted to take shortcuts, but don't. Follow your moral compass, your true north. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking. Don't wind up like Lance and Bernie from hero to zero on my wall of shame. Remember, individuals win games, but it takes a team to win a championship, and it's been an honor for being a member of your team. Thank you for what you do. Have an amazing conference. Cheers.
I wish you well with your brother. Yeah. Thank you, Ross. I'm going to go off script for a second and tell you that when I heard about Ross's troubles today, I gave him the option of leaving and not doing this today to be with his family and his father. And he sucked it up and he said, no, I'm a pro and I'm going to do this for you. And I think you saw how incredible he really is. And so I want to thank Ross for joining us this morning. And now that's the end of today, and I want to send you off to enjoy the chess meeting. Thank you very much.